Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to NOLA Theater Talk. My name is Alan Smason, and again, I hope everybody is having so far a wonderful holiday season as we get ready for Christmas. As you can see behind me, the Hanukkah lights are burning brightly, and so I want to wish you and yours a very happy holiday season, very happy New Year. We're coming back on after being off for a few weeks because, well, we had an opportunity that a few people had for some shows that were going to be coming up that we missed. But, in any event, we offer the platform for those that want to use it. There are a number of shows that are coming up. I know that tomorrow, for instance, Kate Fagan-Burgun, who's going to have her Ho 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 show on again. Last year we had her on talking about it prior to the show being run, and we are anticipating it's going to also be a fun time. I know that there are several things. The NOLA Theater Voice Group is going to be having a get together with Michael Cerveris and a whole bunch of other people that Vatican Loki and Edward Cox are putting on. So that's kind of interesting as well. Hopefully, those of you who are watching this maybe later will have an opportunity to go out and go check some of those particular shows out. If you're with us tonight, that's fantastic. We're happy to have you. Again, we broadcast this to the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, and my own YouTube channel. And you can check all of those out. They're all archived on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you'd like to leave a comment tonight, I do remind you to go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. That's a backward slash, if I'm not mistaken. StreamYard.com/Facebook. And the idea is that we're going to have the opportunity to see who is talking to us. You can leave comments throughout the time. I can put a comment up any time that a comment comes in. They show up on the screen when I see them. Of course, every now and then we get bombarded with some comments that we don't want to put up, so we let everybody know that I edit all of these, that I won't let just anything go up. So if somebody wants to see the girls and all the other things that they offer on those things, then you're going to have to go somewhere else. Not here, not tonight. Okay, so I have promised everybody who has not yet been, or perhaps who has been, a little bit of a tour of the Museum of Broadway. The Museum of Broadway opened on November the 15th. It's on 45th Street, right off of Times Square, in the first block, right off of Times Square on 45th. And again, I would encourage anybody who has not made plans to go to New York, or is making plans to go to New York, to maybe put this on your list of possibilities. It's not a cheap afternoon or morning, depending on when you go, but it's probably running around $50 a head. But there are some student rates, as I understand it, and some senior rates that they're instituting now, which I think will get you in for about maybe $10 cheaper. So those of you who are interested in going to see this, it's a pretty fun-filled, fact-filled, beautiful tribute to Broadway. And I'm going to do as many pictures as I can. I've got so many that I have to do them actually in batches. I've got the first 100 or so images that I'm going to bring up and just sort of go by each one of these as I go through. But I did want to let you know that I just got back from seeing one of the best shows I've ever seen. That's Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman's lovely, beautiful, fantastic. The show currently running at the Schubert Theater, Some Like It Hot. And I have to tell you that there are some people out there, of course, who say that the days of men masquerading in women's clothing, are long over. But I have to say that they address the issue, and they actually allow one of the characters to own their persona, if you will. I have to say that I think they address it quite well, so much so that the audience actually applauds. Not something you would expect in a post-COVID environment where people are saying theater's got to change and we've got to have different perceptions. I think they address the issue respectfully, and I think they actually hit this one out of the park. And again, I love the show. Not everybody loved it. Most everybody I know loved it, but I'm sure that there are few people out there who could find some faults here and there. But it was a spectacular show, and I think it's going to have very long legs, as it were. That the show will run a long time on Broadway. I also got to see the Leah Michelle show, also known as Funny Girl. I have to say that Ramin Karimloo, who normally is in the show, was out due to a cold, and Tova Feldsha, who plays her mother, Fanny Bright's mother, that is, unfortunately was also out of the show. So two of the other people besides Leah that I was looking for were not in the show. But, you know, it was an opportunity to see Leah not having to give anything away to anybody else. And she pretty much owns that audience. When she comes on stage, she owns that audience, and they applaud for her no matter what she's doing. I will say that she does seem to me to be coming into her own in the role, that I think that she's actually growing into it. I do not have anything to say other than the fact that those of you who saw the opening for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade know that she is a very, very good television artist. She's been on Broadway before, of course, obviously, you know, as a youngster with Spring Awakening. She also, you know, of course, knows TV, and TV work is different. You work that camera a lot differently, that lens, than you would on a stage where you're projecting to the audience. So I think she's really going to be taking the show into the next year and beyond. I think that there's a good chance that people are going to want to go see the show now, as she has, as I like to say, grown into the role. So we'll see what goes on with that. And also, of course, I got to see Kimberly Akimbo, which was a wonderful show starring Victoria Clark and a group of newcomers, but very well done. The music, of course, by Janine Tesori. David Lindsay Abair, who wrote the original, actually put it to music. At first was just a straight play without music, and now it's a musical. And I think that it's also a very, very good, although a much smaller kind of musical. It's not meant to be the big brassy ensemble piece that Some Like It Hot is. So those are the shows I just saw recently. And of course, in honor of my recent stay, I am having a Manhattan tonight. I'm going to be probably talking too much to drink much of it, but I will at least address that issue. So let's get going. The Museum of Broadway. We again want to acknowledge the fact that I toured it last week, and it's a lovely facility. I have to say that those of you who have not been might want to look it up on the internet, and they've got some rather interesting paraphernalia, memorabilia, etc. that they have, magnets and hats and things of that sort, which are pretty cool too. So let's get into it. And again, as I say, I'd like to give you a virtual tour of the Museum of Broadway. That, of course, would be yours truly. That's sort of halfway through the show, as it were. They have a little spot there where you can get a little self-portrait, if you will, or a selfie, which is kind of cool. But let me just say that when you go there, the first thing you see is this giant Tony Award from the American Theater Wing and the Broadway League, of course. And that's sort of the area where you can also purchase your T-shirts and your hats and what have you. But once you get going into the museum itself, there's some beautiful pieces as you're going up the stairs, where they have, as an example, pictures of some of the Broadway stars of the past doing, in this particular case, the warm-ups in the staircases and the alleyways, and then on the makeup. That, I believe, is with Kristen Miliani, the lady who was in Once, and I believe was also in How I Met Your Dad, or How I Met Your Father, or How I Met Your Mother. I'm not quite sure. I think they changed the title when she was in it a little bit too. But that, I believe, is her. And then you've got other people. I think Cheetah Rivera is there, and a number of people just getting a little cross section of some of the people. Interestingly enough, did you know that a typical wig on Broadway can cost as much as $2,500 or more? I didn't know that. So they talk about the hair room, and then on to the dressing rooms, and you can see the young lady there in the chair being made up. Some of the traditions. Now, one of the things here, they said that I had not known this. Now, I guess people who are in Broadway shows know about it, but on their last day in the show, many cast members sign the underside of their countertop with the name of the show and the date of their final performance. Other such traditions include the cast gathering on stage to sing "Happy Trails to You" to a departing performer. That I had never known, but it's kind of cute. Again, the dressing room. They showed some of the people warming up on the roof, I guess, at the Winter Garden. And they said it must have been a very interesting event that many neighbors must have been aghast at, seeing all those cats warming up at the Winter Garden. It's rumored that it took a long time for the cat smell to get out of the Winter Garden, too. I can tell you that much. Okay, places. Thank you, places. There we are. You can see a little bit of what the stage manager's cue is. And then we get to the actual museum itself. Now, these are the playbills. And if you notice, there's a little bit of a QR code underneath each one. And each one of these brings you right to where you can buy tickets for the QR code, which is kind of interesting. So Meredith Willson's The Music Man. Yes, I've seen that. Hadestown, yes. No, I have not seen The Old Man in the Pool. Yes, I've seen Some Like It Hot. So that's 3 out of the 4 there. That's good. A good start. Hamilton, yes. 1776, yes. Reviewed that as well. Into the Woods, yes. And Juliet on the end there. No, I have not seen that. So that's another 3 that I've seen, but not And Juliet. So The Old Man in the Pool and Juliet's 2 that I didn't miss. And the black one there is just an empty one. I'm not sure which theater it's for, but it's obviously a theater that's not showing anything right now. Then you've got A Christmas Carol, which is currently playing at the Nederlander. The last time I was at the Nederlander, it was Billy Crystal's Mr. Saturday Night. So I did not get to see this. That's Jefferson Mays, in case you recognize that talented actor. He's doing A Christmas Carol. And then, of course, MJ the Musical, starring Miles Frost, the Tony Award winner. Yes, I've seen that. Aladdin, yes, I've seen that as well. And then we go on to Phantom, yes. The Collaboration, no. Beetlejuice, yes. The Lion King, no. And then finally, we have a couple more to show. The Strange Loop, yes. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I saw it when it was a 2-play series where you had to see it in consecutive nights or in the afternoon and in the evening, depending on the run of the show when it was. 6, yes, I've seen that. Leopoldstadt, yes, I reviewed that as well, and I have to say that was magnificent. Of course, I've seen both the productions of 6 on Broadway at what used to be the Brooks Atkinson, is now the Lena Horne Theater, and also at the Sanger just a few weeks ago. Then, of course, you've got a run there. If you look, that's Funny Girl. I just saw that, of course. A Beautiful Noise, which is the Neil Simon musical, which I had not been able to see yet. Hopefully next month. That would be Almost Famous, the Tom Kitt musical. After that, I haven't seen that. Ain't No Mo is apparently going to be no mo because they've announced their closing notice. But that was when I toured the museum last week. That was still up there, and it would still be up for another few weeks. Kimberly Akimbo, I saw that, again, as I mentioned, and I'm not quite sure what the other vacant theater is, but it's there. K-pop has closed, so that's no longer available. And August Wilson's The Piano Lesson still playing, and of course, as you may or may not know, Denzel Washington's son is in it, as well as Samuel L. Jackson. Then, of course, Wicked I've seen, but I have not seen yet the other 2, Between Riverside and Crazy and Top Dog Underdog, although I have seen a production of Top Dog Underdog here in New Orleans some time ago, and it was very good. And then you get into actually in the theater itself, the theater district, we see where all the theaters are located, and you've got like a map of all the different theaters, and that shows you the cross section of Times Square and Broadway, and that particular that X, if you will, here where it's really kind of the area of Times Square. That is sort of what they use as a symbol, the geographic markers there for the Museum of Broadway. Then they have the timeline, and that's pretty much where we get started on all of the different shows. So if you have not been to this museum, this is the biggest part of what they offer, the timeline. The timeline starts all the way back, and you can see this goes back to the 19th century. The actor there who you see in the chair with his hand resting on the inside of his palm there, that would be, of course, Edwin Booth, for whom the Booth Theater was named, the brother of the infamous assassin John Wilkes Booth, and the son of another famous actor. Again, the Booth family was very well known and heralded as the greatest actors in the United States. And of course, there are others that you can probably recognize. Our American Cousin was the play, of course, playing when Lincoln was shot. But they do go back. I mean, they actually have quite a history that does involve not just what you might consider the Great White Way, but also quite a number of diverse inclusions in this exhibit of some of the early history of Broadway, some of which was probably not so complimentary in terms of what was being presented on stage, and certainly not politically correct with today, but they did include it, and it would be a mistake to leave these things up because there were quite a number of inventive people who were doing work on stage. Very important, I think, that they be acknowledged. Again, very early work done by a lot of these folks, and they're all shown at the museum. And again, some of these are probably so old that most of you out there would not know many of these productions. But suffice it to say, they've got a number of different aspects of Broadway and what was on for Broadway. You can see an early inclusion here of the Tin Man. Obviously, an early production from L. Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz, and then that gentleman there in the cap. You may not recognize him, but I recognize him right away. That's John Philip Sousa, the king of the marches, as it were. Then you've got people such as this is pretty much, if you look at it, the Four Cohens, and it's George M. Cohen. Your Grand Old Flag, Yankee Doodle Boy, etc. This is the Four Cohens that are there at the bottom. The shot I did have of George M. Cohen did not come out so well, so you just have to take my word for it. They do have a picture of him as well. And then, of course, the minstrel shows. They show a lot of these different aspects, again, of some of these people who probably many of us have never heard of, but who were very, very formidable people in terms of their input as part of what became known as the minstrels. You've also got vaudeville. And some of you may recognize some of the people in some of these shots. You will notice that there are several people who are in blackface. That was a part of the vaudeville circuit, and it is a part of the history that again needs to be acknowledged. But of course, knowing what today's sensibilities are, we say that was what was going on then. Certainly not to be condoned now, or to in any way to be emphasize that this is something that we want to continue as a tradition. So again, they do a number of things that are very interesting. I'm always very interested in the story of Daisy and Violet Hilton. Those of you who know the Broadway musical Sideshow know that's their story. Those of you who saw the movie that was done some years ago, back in the 30s, Freaks, know that they were in that movie as well. But again, just interesting that they made the history of Broadway, and I'm sure that those of you who've seen Sideshow know exactly how important that story was and how interesting it is. Now, some of you may not recognize, I'm sorry, but I couldn't get the shot without the chandeliers in the background showing up on the glass. But that is Florence Ziegfeld, of course, who at one time was married to Billy Burke, who was, of course, known probably as Glenda the Good Witch. I believe she was was born in New Orleans, Billy Burke. And then, of course, one of the most famous people to come out of Ziegfeld's Follies and the Ziegfeld shows, that, of course, is Fanny Brice, the original Fanny Brice. That's probably a more known shot of hers. This is one of Fanny Brice when she was on the circuit for Florence Ziegfeld, and a much more demure Fanny Brice. Really, really quite interesting. I hope that you appreciate the fact that she does not look like Leah Michelle, but she was not as unattractive a woman as you might have thought. And I think that probably looks a lot closer to Barbra Streisand or Leah Michelle than you might think. Although everybody thinks about, that kind of crazy Baby Snooks face that she used to make one of her famous characters. Now, these costumes were rescued from the old theater that Disney took over for where Aladdin is being shown now. And of course, that's the New Amsterdam Theater. They obviously must have unearthed these designs. These were original Florence Ziegfeld designs that somehow or other had been put away somewhere, and Disney unearthed them and donated them to the museum. And here's another picture again to give you a little bit of the Ziegfeld Theater. And there's lots of feathers. Now, anybody who's not from New Orleans would probably be amazed at all the feathers that are there. But of course, we've seen so many of these feathers in the Mardi Gras balls, etc., that peacock feathers don't do as much for us as they might for others. But whether it be with the Mardi Gras Indians or the Mardi Gras balls, we see a lot of feathers. So going on, this is again early in the 20th century, 1907 on. You can see some of the early shows there, and then the show that really changed Broadway, and you might be able to glean what it is. It's hard to see, but that is actually Showboat, and they've actually made the pages of Edna Ferber's novel come to life, and they've got all the different pages that are on the wall there from the script, etc., from the original Showboat. And again, here's a caricature of Showboat. I'm not sure who did that. I don't believe that is a Hirschfeld. If it is, it's certainly not a typical Hirschfeld. But that's kind of interesting. And then again, they go from Showboat to one of the other more famous early, I guess, well, more or less mid-1930s piece by George and Ira Gershwin. And of course, that's Porgy and Bess, and that's a shot of the original characters from Porgy and Bess. I would think that would be Sport and Life and Bess. So that's not Porgy and Bess, but Sport and Life and Bess. And then you get into the period from 1927 to 1940 something. Again, you'll recognize some of these. Victor Moore. How many of you saw It Happen on Fifth Avenue? That's Victor Moore in the lower area there, in the top hat on the left. I spotted him. I said, "Oh yeah, I recognize him." And sure enough, Stage Door Canteen. I took this picture because, of course, we have the BB Stage Door Canteen here in New Orleans at the National World War II Museum, but it was an integral part of the American Theater Wing as part of their war effort. Then, of course, 1941, the United States enters the war, as you see there, and there is Kurt Weill. He only lived to be 50 years of age, and I think he died around 1950. So he's probably about 41 when this picture was taken, if that's approximate to the time when the picture was taken, and it's a similar year, but that's probably about the right time. He might have been 42, who knows. Again, now we get into some of the more singular efforts that they want to acknowledge as being very, very important to the history of Broadway. And this, of course, starts off, this is Oklahoma. And you can tell the young ladies who are dancing there, that's a scene from Oklahoma. I guess that would be Agnes DeMille's ballet. And there's the original Curly, Alfred Drake. Fabulous old wooden frame that they use there. And there's the original cast with Rogers and Hammerstein, and you can see everybody in there from Alfred Drake to Celeste Holm, etc. Look at that picture there. Now that's amazing. Look how young Celeste Holm is. Oh my goodness. So we go on, continuing on Oklahoma. This is a Hirschfeld that was done. Kind of interesting. And that's Hirschfeld style. And another Hirschfeld of Rogers and Hammerstein, and of course all the different shows that they did, from Carousel to Sound of Music, Oklahoma. You've got The King and I, and South Pacific. So all of those being acknowledged as part of their legacy. And then, of course, you can see, some of the pictures of the many shows that they did, including State Fair and Allegro and Cinderella, which, of course, was done as a TV production, and now, of course, is a Broadway show. But during the original productions that they did, it was strictly for TV audiences, and done at the same time as My Fair Lady. So, when Julie Andrews did that show, she was doing 2 major Broadway shows at one time. It's amazing that she was able to do all that. A tribute to her. Now, I know I've got a couple people out there watching, and I know people can comment. So I'd love to hear if anybody can comment. Can anybody tell me who this is? And just leave your comment. Go right to Facebook or whatever. And if you can't type in your name, it just says Facebook user. You can use that. It'll tell me who you are. But it's a teaser, trying to see if anybody knows who this is. I'll give y'all a couple of minutes to, or at least a little bit of time, to see if you can tell me if you know who that is. Again, certainly a Broadway luminary, and certainly somebody that we all probably know about or should know about. But anybody know who that is? Anybody want to take a crack? I'd love to hear from you. Any comments will show up in the comments. So just, go to where you are watching and type in your guess. Guesses are good too. I just love to see if anybody knows who this is. Take a gander, look at it. Give us your best shot. Anybody out there? You don't get any points off for guessing wrong, I promise. All right, we'll give it another few seconds. Y'all should know who this is, though. All right, we'll give you this one. We'll give you a pass. Okay, this is Antoinette Perry, better known as the Tony of the Tony Awards. So when anybody ever asks you who the Tony Awards are named for, you have to tell them, first off, it's not a man. It's not Tony something or other. It was Antoinette, and they were named the Tony Awards in her favor, as it were, for Antoinette Perry. Okay, there you go. I thought for sure somebody would know that, but okay, moving on. There's some Tony Awards you can see for yourself. And again, a little bit of a co-production, if you will, every year for the American Theater Wing and the people at the Broadway League. Named for Antoinette Tony Perry. And again, she was not only an actress and a director, but she produced, and she was the wartime leader of the wing, and they named it for her because she had just recently passed. So you'll learn that if you go to the Museum of Broadway. So here's some more plays that were done back in the 40s and into the 50s, and you can see some like Long Day's Journey into Night and some of the things that Eugene O'Neill did, Bus Stop, etc. And then they move into more musicals. Now, mean, I'm looking at George Abbott, who's over there on the right. Some of the musicals include The Most Happy Fella, Frank Lesser's work. You've got several others. Two on the Aisle, which we're going to show in a second, with Bert Lahr and Dolores Gray. Just, some fantastic pictures there. And who's that at the very bottom there? Yes, it's the Merm from Annie Get Your Gun, Irving Berlin's wonderful vehicle. So, again, just so much going on. There's George Abbott again. And, again, he lived to be, 107? Just an amazing individual and very influential. Now, for those of us of a certain age, Mary Martin and Cyril Richard in Peter Pan probably was our entry into Broadway and what it could be. Again, this is the original before the TV production ran. That was at the Winter Garden. TV production, I believe, ran in 1955, right after that. And then again, I think 1956. And then later on again, I think in 1960. The person who knows all about Mary Martin is George Dansker, who's a local treasure trove of information. And congratulations to George on his last Harnick Bach presentation of the Jewish Composer Series. He did it at Touro Synagogue. Fabulous presentation with some wonderful voices, including the cantor at Touro, Kevin Margolis. And believe it or not, the senior rabbi, Katie Bowman, also sang beautifully. They did a version of Sunrise Sunset together. So I recommend if you haven't seen that, I'll post on my own line, but also probably on the Theater Folk and also Theater Criticism pages, the link to that YouTube channel that they've got, that you can see that. It runs about an hour and 18 minutes, so it's not like a 5 or 10 minute little presentation. You're gonna have to get down and enjoy it, but it's gonna take a little bit of time. Moving on, they went to West Side Story, of course. West Side Story, that's one of the original jackets from West Side Story, with a picture from the actor who wore it. I thought this was kind of cute. They have a Seaberg, an old jukebox, and only the songs that only play are the Jet song Tonight. If you look at it, it's all the songs Maria America from the musical. There's a early picture there of I would say the early playbill that you've got there, and also the fight scene. And you've got, obviously, that's America. I'm sure that Cheetah's in there somewhere. That might be her in the front. And then, of course, this picture I thought was phenomenal. You've got Stephen Sondheim, you've got Leonard Bernstein, you've got Jerome Robbins, and I'm sure some of the people who were involved with that early production, who were producers. Again, the Rumble and the very famous Larry Kurt and was it Carolyn Jones that was in it, the actress? I'm trying to remember exactly, but in any event, you've got a whole slew of memories to be had at the Museum of Broadway. So let me go ahead and take some time just to delete some of these pictures, because I've gotten to the point now where I can't actually show all the pictures I've got, but I'm going to try to bring you up some more. But the application would only allow me to post a few to begin with, and I couldn't bring them all in today like I tried to. So I prepared as much as I could, but let's see, just trying to get rid of some of these pictures and then upload some of the other ones. It's going to take me just a second or two. Meanwhile, I'll remove the West Side Story image. So I hope that you all enjoy this. I think that some of the more fascinating parts of this are still to come. And I've only got, like I said, we only got to now West Side Story. That would put it around 1957. And there's still a few more years to go, obviously. And then beyond the timeline, They have an area which was not as interesting for me, but probably would be very interesting for people who are practitioners who are already involved in theater. And for me, it's sort of like seeing how the sausage is made. Some people enjoy seeing the back stories on how certain things happen and are done, and who's responsible for seeing that certain aspects of a production are done. But I will tell you that that part of it is on another floor. They've got the timeline on basically one main floor, and then you've got this other presentation which allows you to see videos from different people who are like Janine Tesori, people who are involved in making Broadway shows, and they talk about what they do and how they do it and how they get involved, etc. So I've deleted a, geez, it seems like a whole bunch, but I've still got a few more to do. Um, it's not that bad, but it's a lot. So we were up to West Side Story, and I want to try to get to as many of the other shows as I can. And I know we only promised to do an hour, so I'm probably not going to be able to get everything in. But a fantastic opportunity to see some of these, and hopefully we'll have enough time to load up some more. Just let me get rid of it. It's about another 24 here that I've got to get rid of so I can load up the rest of them. Thankfully, I prepared as many of them as I could, knowing that you all would be there. Again, if you want to leave any comments tonight, feel free. I'm certainly any questions you might have about any of the shows that I've mentioned or any of the shows that you're interested in seeing. If I've seen them, I'll be happy to pass information on. It's odd that we don't get to see too many of these shows direct from Broadway. We were lucky to see 6 as early as we did because I think that was part of the a benefit for us from the pandemic. We probably wouldn't have seen 6 till next year, but I think they were able to get us in because of the pandemic last year. So let's see if we can add. That was 1273. I think I was up to. So let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can just add these in here and see how many more we can get in, and then hopefully. Okay, so we've seen these. But we haven't seen this one yet. Yeah, we did see that one. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, so 78. There we go. All right, so this one I know we didn't get to see. That is another Hirschfeld, and that, of course, is his interpretation of West Side Story. And there's an entire room of Hirschfelds that you may or may not be familiar with. The caricatures, but if you like Hirschfeld, he's all over this museum. Once again, we've got more to show. Here's Carol Channing, and of course, this is Hello, Dolly, and a Hirschfeld of her as Dolly, and then one of her dresses. And that's a pretty fabulous looking dress. I'm afraid I had to take it far away, but I mean, beautiful beading on it as well. Again, the Museum of Broadway on 45th, and hopefully you can get a chance to make it on as part of your plan to see this important museum, because it really is a very interesting presentation. Let's just put a few more up and see if I can throw up a couple more. But you can get an idea, I think, how well done this is. And it really is encouraged. A lot of museums you go to, they don't want you to pull out your camera or your phone. They really encourage you to take pictures, and even flash photography is permitted, which is not at every venue that you see. They'll allow that to happen. Um, just a couple more. Let's see if we can put those in. 12. Okay, there. I got 6 more to put in 3 more batches. But so besides Hello Dolly, you all may not recognize who that is. That's Joseph Stein, who was the book writer for Fiddler on the Roof, and he took that from the obviously from the Shalom Aleichem stories, and a little bit more. You may recognize, maybe not. You may not recognize who that is, but if you look behind, and this picture here, obviously that's Stephen Sondheim all the way in the back, and you've got Jerome Robbins there, and I'm certain that one of those other people is Julie Stein, and maybe Arthur Lawrence. I'm not quite sure, but you've got the actual Gypsy Rose Lee there. That's her, the person for whom Gypsy was named. And obviously at the top, you can see Mama, as played by Ethel Merman. And on the side there, you've got Mame and of course, obviously, Manila Mancho. I couldn't believe that's a picture of Elaine Stritch, and I can't believe how young she is in it. I knew she was, on Broadway a long time, but my goodness, that's a fantastic picture. And again, an homage here to Barefoot in the Park. Of course, the incredible writing team of Neil Simon and the direction of Mike Nichols. So again, a wonderful collaboration there, and they've got actually some other aspects of that wall, including Chekhov, etc. But there's so much to see in this museum. I mean, it really is very difficult for me to really try to say it all in just a short period. But suffice it to say, there are some really wonderful opportunities for you to really enjoy. If you love Broadway, you love musicals or plays, and you want to see a little bit more. This is just a real great opportunity. And I hadn't thought about it, but I might have to do a part 2 on this, because really I'm limited by the amount of pictures I can show at one time, and I've pretty much been I was all prepared for all the pictures I could get in the first group, but I thought that we might have a little bit more storage, but obviously I was wrong. So we'll do what we can. Let me see if I can get another couple in here. We've got, this is the original Sound of Music with Mary Martin, of course. And there she is, like butter, Barbara Streisand from Funny Girl. And let's see, 1290. I've got, I think, a couple more, just maybe 2 more I can throw in. Maybe 4 more. Let's see if we can get these. I'll just go ahead and throw them all up there, and I'll delete one of them. It's easier to throw up the last few. There we go. Let's see what we got here. This is this is from Cabaret. They have a wonderful production shot of all the different things, just like they did with Oklahoma, and they did the same thing with Cabaret as an instrumental kind of a very important musical. 1967 on to the 70s. You've got, and it's interesting, they put Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was not a very long-lived musical, but they do a lot of research, and you've got a lot of different musicals that are represented there. There's the more recent Cabaret with Alan Cumming, and the original is in black and white in the behind. And then we get to Hair, and you can see the costumes that they have for hair there. Um, and maybe that's a good spot to stop. We can maybe start with hair on the next group because honestly, there's only so much we can talk about. But maybe we'll do the visit to the museum part two. Um, Not sure if I can do it next week or not, but we'll see. It'll be the day after Christmas, if so. But maybe some of you will take the journey with me and come back on that one. As of right now, I can tell you that we have a number of really interesting shows coming up, and I'll be doing a review for the year. And I'd love to hear from any of you if you've got to put any comments here tonight, or if you've got any way to get a hold of me. If you want to leave something on a wall or something like that on either theatercriticism.com or the web page for Facebook, or if you want to go to the NOLA Theater Folk page, if you're a member of the group, and leave word. I'd love to get your thoughts on some of the shows that you were most, if not affected by, impressed by, that ran this past year, because I am going to do a recap, and I'd certainly love to hear what you thought were innovative or important shows that we did this past year. And I say we, I mean we as a community presented and appreciated. So there's a whole lot out there to think about, and I'd rather not single any one group out tonight. But obviously, there's some things that occurred. The final death knell, if you will, of Southern Rep will reverberate for many years to come. As of right now, I'm not quite sure where we're going to see new plays released and produced here locally like we did in the past. That doesn't mean to say that there won't be new plays done. I know that No Dream Deferred is going to be doing a festival of new plays, but these are going to be a little bit more specific to perhaps the Black audience, as opposed to some others that might be coming from other places around. So I'm always looking to see what is on the National New Play Network. I mean, we've seen some things like new writers and some of the established ones too coming in with some new works that have always been very provocative. And I'm thinking, for instance, of Lucas Nath and some people like that who did some very impressive work. So it was released out. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about those as well. So we're getting close to the end of the hour, and I don't think I have to belabor the point. So if you join me, if you enjoyed the first part of the trip to the museum, perhaps the second trip will be very good, because we'll talk about not only the images that we'll have of the shows from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, which will go all the way up into the modern era, all the way up to Hamilton and beyond. But also we'll cover several of the other pieces they've got. They've got some memorabilia there, such as the original lamp from Aladdin, the original boots from Kinky Boots. You'll get to see those as well. So as a teaser, I'll tell you, second half of the show coming up will be probably as interesting to you as some of the pieces you've seen here. And again, they do a number of homages to other works like The Wiz. They do several other plays and musicals that we were talking about. I mentioned, of course, Hair. We'll probably start with Hair and beyond and go from there. So with your indulgence and with your permission, I'd like to maybe take off a little bit early tonight and wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. And of course, those of you who observe, Happy Kwanzaa as well. I'm not quite sure when we'll start the next show again. Will it be this next Monday, or will it probably be the beginning of the new year? But we'll figure it out, and I'll announce it, and you'll hopefully be able to stay with us and see it. Again, all of these shows are broadcast over the facilities that we have here from StreamYard, and we broadcast The NOLA Theater folk is the face group that we have for Theater Talk, as well as the theatercriticism.com Facebook page and my own YouTube channel. So those of you who were with me tonight for this trip to the Museum of Broadway, a virtual tour, please come back for the second half, and we'll hopefully be able to whet your appetite for some more of the interesting images that we've had. And we'll have a lot more of Hirschfeld's. If you like Hirschfeld's, we'll have a number of his work. They have an entire exhibit of Hirschfeld at the end of the exhibit that was done in part and parcel with a new book of Hirschfeld that starts from, I think, 1962 on of Hirschfeld's impact on the theater. So for you and yours, hopefully a very happy holiday season. And again, I want to thank you all for appreciate that. I want to thank you all for being with me tonight. Again, I'll be back if not next week, then in a few weeks. So just stick around and take care of yourselves. And again, as always, I will see you at the theater.